Hi, I'm here to teach you about rounding decimals. The first thing you need to know is the placement. This 3 is representing the thousand, the 2 is representing the hundreds, the 7 is representing the tens, and the 5 is representing the ones. This 8 is representing the tenths, the 9 is representing the hundredths, and the 8 is representing thousandth, and so on. So the first question is asking us to round to the nearest hundredth. So you look to the right of the hundredth, and it is an 8. An 8 is greater than 5, so it would round this other 8 to a 9. The answer would be 3,275.89. Our next question is asking us to round to the nearest 10. You look to the right of the 10 spot, and it is a 1. A 1 is less than 5, so it would not round this 0 up. The answer is 9,760. Our next question is asking us to round to the nearest 1,000. You look to the right of the 1,000th place, and it's a 2. A 2 is less than 5, so it would not round the 9 up. The answer would be 9,000. Our next question is asking us to round to the nearest 100. You look to the right of the 100 spot, and it is a 9. A 9 is greater than 5, so it would round the 6 up to a 7. The answer would be 6,700. That was our last question, so now I'll teach you about the order of decimals. When figuring out the order of the decimals, you look at the tenths. Like I said, the first step would be to look at the tenths place. So I'll just divide it in half so you're only looking at this part. So you can see that the 6 is greater than the 1, the 0, the 1, and the 2. So the last decimal would be the greatest. The next one you see is a 2. So you would put the 2 down here. Then you have a 1 and a 1, which you think they're tied, but they're not. So you see this, then you go to the hundredth place. If you add in a 0, it's not changing the value of that number, it's just a holding place, so you can compare the two. A 7 is greater than 0, so 0.17 will go before 0.1. And then last, you would have 0.1 or 0.4. So that would be the orders from greatest to least. So then you would go here, and you would want to move the 6 up to the first spot, and then you would want to move the 2 to the second spot, 0.12 the third, and that is correct. Our next question is, or our next one to put in order are 0.8, 0.09, 0.16, 0.61, and 0.36. So if you do the same method as I just showed you, looking at the tenth place, you can see that the 8 is greater than the 0, the 1, the 6, and the 3. The next greatest would be the 6. Then you can also see the 3, which would come next, and then the 1. So if you were just blocking out the 1, the 6, you can see it would be 8, 6, 3, 1, 0. our next one to solve are 0.2, 0.01, 0.18, 0.11, and 0.93. The 9 in the 10th spot is the greatest out of all of them, so it would go first. The next grade, then you would see the 2, then you can see the 2 is greater out of all of these. And then comparing the 0.18 and 0.11, so 0.18 and 0.11, you can see that the 8 is greater than this one, so that would go next. And then 0.01, you can see that in the 10th spot that the 0 is less. We can do one more example. Example will do greatest to least on these numbers. In this last one, we can line the decimals up like I did on the first one, so you can clearly see how to order them. Now if I add a 0 in the 100th spot, it did not change the value of 0.7. That'll just be a placeholder. So the first thing we want to look at is the 10th spot. You can see that there is a 7, a 7, a 0, a 1, and a 5. So you know that 7 and 7 would be the highest numbers. To figure out which one goes first, you would look in the 100th spot, and you can see that the 1 is greater than the 0. So 0.71 would go before 0.70. The next thing we need to look at is the last 3. You can see that the 5 is greater than the 1 and the 0, so 0.59 would go next. Then you can see that the 1 is greater than the 0, so 0.19 would go, and then 0.05 would go. Okay, now we can put it in order on here. So the 0.71 would go first, then 0.7, then 0.59, and 0.19, and 0.05. So remember, when you are rounding decimals, you want to look and see if the number you're getting is greater than, if it's greater than 5, then you round up, and if it's less than 5, then you wouldn't round the number. And the easiest way to putting decimals in order is to line them up and compare the first all the tenths, then the hundredths. Thank you.